advertised based on all the guidelines we have around the ratification hearing. I now open this pre-ratification meeting. I would like to call on Mr. Taylor to provide information about the terms of the tentative agreement of the collective bargaining agreement.
That's correct, Mr. Alexander. We did post the tentative agreement Monday evening after the association had ratified on their side. This is a requirement of Senate Act 390. It's been around for about 5 years, I guess now, actually, that we post this 72 hours in advance and then we discuss it. Sorry, that's really loud. So today we're just going to share the details of the summary agreement. The board is, I think, planned to meet and take action on this on Tuesday morning, and so that'll be the actual official action. There'll be no vote taken this evening. I'm going to run through the bullet points that Ms. Howard has up on the screen for us. This tentative agreement equates to a little over 8% of an increase for the entire collective bargaining agreement. Individual teachers, though, will see a total base salary increase that averages out to 5.65, and there's a couple ways that we get to that number. The first one is just a base increase to the salary schedule, so we take everyone's current rate and we add 4.18% to it, and that's the increase. The second step of that increase is a row advancement for teachers who are returning from last year and met the evaluation criteria. And for them individually, it's a 2.15% increase to their compensation from the prior year. However, overall, when we factor in all teachers, it's about 1.47. So we take those two numbers, the 4.18 and the 1.47, and that's what gets us to that average of 5.65. I've noted there the two differences in compensation. Again, a returning and qualifying teacher, based off effectiveness, would get a 6.33 base salary increase from last year, and a new teacher to Center Grove, or someone who didn't meet the evaluation requirement, would receive the 4.18. That's not entirely true. A new teacher would receive the 4.18. If you don't make the evaluation criteria, you don't get those raises. This is one of those years where I think everyone's going to get it, so that's why I'm using some of that language. Column advancement, we do this for teachers who receive more degrees, credits. They move on to a master's or master's and beyond. They get a lane change. It's a slightly higher percentage. It moves them over in the salary scale, and we granted those this year. And then the final compensation increase for all up top is a one-time retention bonus that will be paid out on December 30th to all currently employed teachers at that time. That's in the amount of $500, and you'll see the board's using cash balance and roughly the amount of $312,000 for that. Equates to a 0.88% increase for the entire bargaining unit. That number that I'm presenting there also includes some Social Security contributions that we make, public teacher retirement funds, and others. So what's that get our scale then? Our new opening salary, our starting base salary will be $46,015, and our top base salary will be $88,863. And then I wanted to point out just a couple things, as we've talked about individual salary increases a lot through this process. The lowest base salary increase, this would be a newly hired teacher with a BA that does not receive that row advancement, would receive a base increase of $1,800 from last year to this year. That's not inclusive of that $500 retention bonus. Just wanted to point that out. And the highest would be a teacher actually on the second highest row. That's row 27. They would move to row 28. They would have a master's plus 32 in their degree, and they would receive a base salary increase of $5,300 from last year. So then we get into some of the other items that are outside of base compensation, and these items provide an additional 1.54% to the entire bargaining unit. You'll see there in the amount of about $546,000. We will increase the ECA schedule by 4.18%, so the entire scale will move up there. And then we're going to add some new ECA positions or some coordinator positions in the handbook, some assistant golf coaches, some event managers, to help with the events, and then the biomed coordinator. We've done this in our science department for chemistry and physics and some other specialty sciences, and that's what that relates to. We then have changes to the healthcare plan. We've had a positive year in the healthcare plan. Fortunately, we don't have to repeat a large increase like last year, but the committee did meet back in August, discussed, and agreed at the time to present a recommendation of a 2% increase for employees, but to offset that with a holiday. And so what you'll see, that 2% increase for the highest plan on a family member would be a $7 per pay increase. All others would be at $6 or less. per pay. The district's going to actually increase their share by over 5%. To try to keep that impact on the employee as low as possible. And then, as I mentioned, a one-time holiday, that actually equates to a 4% reduction. We have roughly 24 pays in a year, so that's where we get that number. So the net increase will be down for 2023 for our health plan members, but we will continue to get monthly revenue coming in to the health plan fund to keep that moving forward and keep us back trying to get to where we want to be with our reserve level. And no change to the HSA at this time. The agreement also includes a match increase to $850 for the 403B. We did have an herb compliance finding last spring that we removed that language. It was something we'd added the prior year, and it's no longer needed. So we'll strike that from the agreement. We have moved sick leave usage language out of the contract and into the handbook just to give us more flexibility as sick leave is fluctuating on us, as we all know, after the pandemic. We can make changes to that as we need to, just with some discussion. And then finally, we're going to renumber the salary scale. I've talked to the association leadership on this. We're going to renumber, get rid of those 2 rows that were 0 across the board. And we're going to add a note so folks, when they look in Skyward, so teachers, when they look in Skyward, will know. I might have been on row 5 in the old salary scale, but now I'm 2 rows lower. Why is that? We're going to put a little note on there to say prior to this was row 5, so they can kind of track that through Skyward and have some knowledge themselves that we didn't just move them down 2 rows, but by label it might look like that. So, but the amounts will stay the same. I believe that's the end of the summary document, Mr. Alexander. All I need to share for today.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. This is the appropriate time for members of the public to comment on the tentative agreement. Are there members of the public present who would like to comment? Cut the microphone, David.
It's going to be really awkward if I have to lay on this table. I did. I can stand next to it. Got it. Got it. Okay. We appreciate the opportunity to say a few words this morning. We were asked by our membership to report on our ratification meeting and share some observations that we hope will take us into better bargaining next year. Despite our membership ratifying the board's offer, we likely don't need to say that teachers were disappointed in what they ratified. The vote was close, and we have never seen teachers more dismayed, dejected, and resentful. Many ballots offered commentary that we cannot share at a microphone, but none of it was snarky or funny. All of it was angry. Our members believe the board adherence to the idea of parity in compensation is something that serves administrators more than it does teachers, a detail obvious to anyone who has seen and shared the public information we have highlighted these last months. The disparity it creates is also something that has been acknowledged by district leaders and board members in past discussions of compensation. The board is a governing body, and the board can choose to change it, yet it was the adherence to the practice that led to our members rejecting the offer and then to mediation. And our members believe that adherence to parity is selective. For example, there is no parity whatsoever in the way retirement benefits are allocated, and since 2014, with the inclusion of contributions to the 401A, the disparity has grown exponentially. There's also no parity in the way that teachers compete with frivolous spending that adds up to what is likely hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. Cell phones, landscaping, redecorating, updating buildings, and technologies teachers are forced to use, and the continual reliance of siphoning off over $9 million a year from the education fund. We bargained to retain teachers. Since we requested the bread documents in September, we've lost 7. Our own anonymous surveying of teachers revealed that 125 Center Grove teachers say they are actively exploring other employment. The same survey revealed that 13 Center Grove teachers are currently interviewing for jobs outside the district, and 16 have already decided not to return next year. Our plan is to survey them again in the spring. The board has shared public statements in which they assert their value for Center Grove educators. The events of this year's bargaining are not convincing. Perhaps disappointing the people you say you value is a necessary result of difficult decision-making. Whatever your reasons, if you do value teachers and if you want to retain them, you need to find a way to regain their trust and show them you do value them, because simply put, very few of them believe you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, David. Any other members of the public wish to comment or speak? Seeing none, I now close this meeting, or I now close this public hearing. Are there members of the board who have any comments or questions? Okay, there is no board action required at this time. We'll take action on Tuesday morning, as is the second piece of the meeting in the process as governed by IC.